There we go. Let's finish where we were. You guys can hear me and see me perfectly, right?
Yes.
Perfect, perfect. All right, thank you. Let's keep going. All right, so the trustee is the actual controller of the trust. So that's the fiduciary. That's the individual that's actually going to be dealing with the day-to-day operations of the trust, okay? So that's the person who's going to be putting assets into the trust, taking assets or liquidating assets out of the trust. So they're the fiduciary for the beneficiaries, right? Everything that they do is for the best interest of the beneficiaries. So they're growing the wealth for the beneficiaries, okay? The trustee is a individual. You actually want the trustee to be you, right? So that's the individual who can be considered as the owner of the trust, but we don't use those terms because a trust is a living entity. So then we have the beneficiaries. The beneficiaries are the inheritors of the trust. So that means that they have no control, but they are actually going to inherit all the assets in the trust once the trust is dissolved, and they get all of the living benefits while the trust is in operation, meaning that they get distributions. So their main goal is to understand and learn the trust, as well as for them to be aware of what the trustee powers are, okay? So another officer within the trust is a protector. The protector is an individual that's what we call an adverse independent person, where they're not related to the beneficiaries, they're not related to the trustees or the grantor. So they are an external person that comes in, and their main goal is to protect the beneficiaries from the trustee. So they are watching the trustee to make sure that they're dealing legally, lawfully, and that they are, not dissipating the wealth, and that they are acting within the provisions of the trust. So if they find that the actual trustee is mismanaging the trust or being grossly negligent, then what they're going to do is they are going to terminate the trustee or force them to resign, and then they'll replace them with another trustee. So if you are the trustee, you don't need a protector right now, but you do want to think about 50 years into the future, because you need to understand that the trust is going to outlive you. So the trust is going to, be around for 100 years. And so in the future, you might want to appoint a protector so that you understand and know that the trust is being managed properly. So there's different types of trust. We have a living trust, a testamentary, a land trust, charitable trust, irrevocable, revocable. So let's go through some of those types of trust. We also have categories as well. So the first category is we have implied versus express. So an implied trust is a verbal trust, right? It's an oral trust. And then you have an express trust, which is a written trust. So from those two categories, you want an express trust that's written, it's in black and white, it's a contract you can actually sign. And then the other categories is simple versus complex. So a simple trust is, it sounds like what it is. It's short, it's simple. And with that type of trust, you have to do distributions to the beneficiaries. Then we have a complex trust, which is longer in length. It has more provisions and sections. And that one is more flexible, where you don't necessarily have to do distributions. Then we have statutory versus non-statutory. So for a statutory trust, that means that it's registered with the state, and you have to abide by state statutes, okay? So with that type of trust, usually it is created by an attorney that is practicing, their legislative law. And so they put all of the state statutes and codes inside of the trust, so that you have to abide abide by that state, meaning that you can't use that trust outside of your state where you created it if you were to go and create a statutory trust. Then we have a non-statutory trust, meaning that it's operating under common law. So that means that it's operating under the law prior to the Constitution. So it's not regulated by the state. There's no state statutes or codes in there. So you can actually use this trust throughout the whole nation and the U.S. territories. So a non-statutory trust is a better category to have because in your state, you have, like I said, the state statutes. And so the court systems are statutory court systems. So that means that if you were sued, you can't be, your court case can't be held in a statutory court. So you would have to actually go to a higher form of court, which is the Supreme Court. So the local court systems in your state can't even, can't even process your case. So that's also a very good thing that's beneficial for you. And then we have irrevocable versus revocable. So with that being said, this means that a revocable trust, and we're only talking about one party when we're talking about revocable versus irrevocable. That one party is the grantor, which is the person who actually established the trust. So when we're talking about revocable trust, that means that you can revoke things. So the grantor is able to revoke the trust or terminate the trust or terminate the trust. So they can also take back property from the trust. They can revoke property. They can also remove beneficiaries, and they can also make amendments to the trust. So that is specifically for the grantor, okay? So they can make changes to the trust. So when you're dealing with a revocable trust, that trust, because it can be changed, is not seen as a solid trust because it can be altered, right? So that's not the type of trust that you want because sometimes it's not held up in court like it's supposed to because it can be amended. Then you have an irrevocable trust. The irrevocable trust is the best type of trust because it cannot be changed by the person who created it. So we're only talking about the grantor. The grantor has irrevocability. So that means that they can't make amendments to the trust. They can't revoke or take back property from the trust. They can't remove any beneficiaries. They can't terminate the trust. Okay. So that only applies to the grantor. It doesn't apply to the trustee. The trustee with an irrevocable trust is actually able to make changes, okay? So keep that in mind when you are determining the type of trust that you want to establish. So let's talk about how to create a trust. Number one, you're going to determine what type of trust you want to create. So I just gave you guys a list of several different categories and types of trust. So determine which one is the best type of trust for you. If you were to ask me for my recommendation, I will tell you to create an irrevocable trust, right? You might as well just go with the best type of trust, which we call a bulletproof trust. Number two, you want to determine the trust name. So what is the actual trust name? So when you're choosing a name for a trust, you do not have to have the word trust in the name of your trust, okay? So that's one thing to keep in mind. Another thing is do not name the trust after yourself, okay? Because we are actually creating this trust, one, for privacy, but two, for obscurity. So we don't want people to know that we actually own these assets. So if you name the trust after yourself, then people are going to know that you are, you have some type of relation with this entity, right? Because it's a private entity. So people do not need to know that you are the trustee or the beneficiary or any of that information. It's not on public records and it doesn't need to be disclosed. Okay. If you are creating a business trust, you can use those words like LLC abbreviations, company, co, corp, things like that, holdings. You can use those terms when you are actually creating a business trust and you're naming it. So after you name your trust, you're going to appoint your grantor, right? So if you are creating an irrevocable trust, you do not want to be the grantor of your irrevocable trust. So you're going to appoint someone else to be the grantor, and that person is going to be your, it could be your next of kin. It could be a sibling, a grandparent, a parent. It could be a neighbor, you know, a co-worker, a best friend, anybody. But that person needs to, one, obviously be 18 and older and actually have the ability to notarize the trust with you. Then you're going to appoint the trustee. So you want to appoint yourself as the trustee because you want full control over your trust and full control over the assets that you're putting inside of your trust. And then you're going to appoint your beneficiaries, right? So your beneficiaries can either be other entities, or they can be your children or your next of kin or whoever you want to inherit your assets, okay? So if you have a business trust, you want the beneficiary of your business trust to be your family trust, because you are in the business of making money, and then that money needs to flow to your family. If you have a family trust, you want the beneficiaries to be your children, right? Because those are the individuals that are actually going to receive the assets once the trust is dissolved. And then you're going to choose your successor. Your successor is the successor trustee. So that's the individual who's going to take over after you, because you have to keep in mind that your trust is going to outlive you, okay? So if it's going to operate for 100 years, it's going to outlive you. You need to be able to put someone in place so that that trust can continue to operate. So this is in the event that you become incapacitated, expire, or resign, then the actual successor is going to take over. So you'll appoint them today, but they are just going to remain, you know, dormant, or, you know, remain idle until they're able to take over, which is when you step down, okay? So you definitely want to appoint a successor, and just let that person be qualified, right? And actually want to operate a trust. Number 3, you're going to create the trust agreement. So you're going to actually create your contract, and I will show you guys what an actual trust looks like. And once you create your contract, you're going to put whatever provisions you want, right? So if you want, you know, the beneficiary to receive distributions at, you know, 20 years old, then you'll go ahead and put that information into the trust, okay? Then after your trust is created, you're going to print it out and you're going to get it notarized. It needs to be signed by the grantor, and it also needs to be signed by you, the trustee, in front of a notary, and it needs to be notarized because that's what makes it legal. So then at that point, it is a legal entity and you are able to operate it, okay? So once you are in the position to where it's legal and you can operate it, then you want to actually have a board meeting. So that board meeting, you're going to actually establish meeting minutes, and those meeting minutes are the life of your trust, okay? Because your trust is an entity, but it has an authorized representative, which is the trustee. So you need to be documenting in your meeting minutes exactly what you're going to do. So you're going to document that you're going to open up a trust bank account, and that you're going to be the authorized signer and the individual that's going to be you know, receiving the debit cards and checks and things of that nature. And so once you have that board meeting minutes, then you'll go ahead and open up a trust bank account, okay? So when you're opening up a trust bank account, you're going to need to take with you the EIN letter. So you're going to apply for an employer identification number with the IRS for your trust entity. And then you'll also take your certificate of trust, which is your identification. So it's kind of like a driver's license or something like that, where it actually proves that there's actually a trust that exists or a real entity. And then you'll take your board meeting minutes with you. So that's what you're going to do in order to open up the trust bank account. When you're opening up a trust or establishing one, you have to give value to the trust. The trust has a corpus. That means that it has a body. that means that you have to give this body value. So with that being said, you need to actually do an exchange to where you are giving value to the trust. So that could be anything. It could be $1, $100, $1,000. So let's say that you funded the trust bank account with $1,000. That was your personal money. So what's going to happen is you are actually going to do a promissory note to where you're going to document that the trust is going to pay you back the $1,000 plus interest in a 12-month period, or it could be anything, right? Let's just say 6 months, whatever you decide. But the trust is going to pay you back. You have a promissory note, okay? So the trust can actually take loans from you, and you can also take loans from the trust. So, then we're going to go to 6, which is transferring assets into the trust. So you're going to document your assets inside of the Schedule B of the trust, but you're also physically going to have to do it. So let's just say that you had a primary residence. With this primary residence, when you purchased it, you received a warranty deed, right? And so now what you're going to do is you don't have to sell your property to the trust. You are going to gift it to the trust. So that's going to be, $0 or $1. And what's going to happen is you're going to do a quit claim deed. With this quit claim deed, you are going to sign that you are signing it over, transferring the deed from your personal name into the trust. You are going to get this quit claim deed notarized. And then from there, it is going to be recorded. So you're going to go to the county recorder's office in your respective county, or the clerk of courts, just depending on your county. So once that happens, then it's going to be recorded, and it's going to be updated that you actually are no longer the owner, and that the trust is now the new owner of the property, okay? So that is what a transferring of asset looks like. And then number 7 is operating the trust. So when you are actually operating the trust, you have these assets, right? The assets need to be maintained. So that's a part of operations. You also have bills associated with these assets. So if you put your primary residence into the trust, then at that point in time, whatever bills are associated or financial responsibilities are associated with the trust, that's now the financial responsibility of the trust. So for example, this house has a mortgage. So the trust now has to pay for the mortgage, has to pay the utilities and the taxes associated with that house. So that's what operating the trust looks like. It looks like how you would operate yourself, okay? So let's talk about asset transfer. So when it comes to the trust, the number one reason why you want to trust is for asset protection, because it gives you 100% privacy, because you are removing yourself from the public records, and the trust is now, operating on your behalf, dealing with all of these affairs. So a trust can actually protect you from a lot of things. It can protect you from lawsuits, from foreclosures, from divorce, from bankruptcy, heavy taxation, and probate. So let's go through some of these. So for example, let's talk about lawsuits, right? When it comes to lawsuits, let's just say that you were operating an LLC. And that LLC, you're doing business, and now somebody decides to sue your business, right? It's called limited liability company, which means that you have limited liability. You don't have full liability, okay? Or no liability. So with that being said, if someone decides to sue your LLC, it is very easy for them to find out who the owner of your LLC, because it's public records. So all they have to do is go to the Secretary of State's website, type in the name of your business, and then your name is going to pop up, because it's going to show who the owner is, who the registered agent is, and things of that nature. And so then at that point, they will initiate a lawsuit against the LLC. So they'll sue the LLC in court, And if the LLC loses and it doesn't have enough funds in order to fulfill the judgment, then the judge can decide to pierce the corporate veil and actually sue the owner of that LLC. So that means that if you're the owner, they will sue you personally for the judgment of that LLC lawsuit. And so that means that they can actually garnish your wages. They can actually freeze your bank accounts. They can seize your assets, and you don't want that to happen. So the way that you're going to protect yourself is by removing yourself as the actual owner of your LLC, and you're going to now put the business trust as the owner of the LLC. So the way that that works is you would go to the Secretary of State's website and do an amendment. And so you would remove yourself and add the business trust. The business trust will now be acting as a holding company, and it's going to hold that actual LLC. So the LLC is still going to be operating and doing business, but it actually has a holding company, which is a business trust, as the owner now. So now when we go back to this lawsuit and the judge decides to pierce the corporate veil, the judge is going to go after the trust. So that actually protects you, because if the trust is sued, they can't come after you personally for anything that you own in your name, which is good. And the same thing happens vice versa. If you are personally sued, they cannot go after the trust for anything that the trust owns. So that's really beautiful. Next, let's talk about divorces, right? So when it comes to divorces, a divorce is a court case or lawsuit between two individuals, right? Typically a husband and a wife. And so with this type of case, a trust cannot be included into a divorce because it's between the two individuals, and the trust is a separate entity from those two individuals. So let me give you a case study. I have a client who he has been married for 10 years, and 2 years into his marriage, he ended up purchasing two houses during 2008 when we had that housing bubble. And so his wife prohibited him from actually purchasing any more real estate because they were upside down on two houses. So I totally understand where she was coming from, but he disagreed. And so what he ended up doing was he actually set up a trust, and he actually purchased 7 properties with that trust. So now that trust has 7 houses that are inside of that trust. And fast forward 10 years later, they are getting a divorce. And so those 7 houses and that trust is not included in the divorce. Because I don't know if you know this, but a divorce is a transfer of wealth. So you can actually use a trust in order to protect you, if and when that time comes. Let's talk about heavy taxation, right? Because I think that a lot of us, our number one goal should be in order to save as much in taxes as possible. We don't want to put ourselves in a position to where we're giving half away, right? That's what we're used to. And so the way that you can actually save yourself from heavy taxation is by utilizing these trusts. So one trust that I'm going to talk about specifically is the 508c1a ministry trust or faith-based organization. So that type of trust is actually a tax-exempt nonprofit trust, okay? And with that being said, that type of trust can actually save you thousands on taxes. And the way that it works is if you are a W-2 employee, let's just say, for example, and you make $100,000 per year, you can actually donate up to 60% of your gross income to your trust. So that means that $100,000 that you just made in your job, you are going to donate 60 of it on paper to your trust. And now the IRS can only tax you on 40%. So that means that they only tax you on $40,000 out of that $100,000. Do you know how much money you are going to be saving just by that one strategy alone? That $60,000 that you're not taxed on, you can use that money to actually build wealth faster instead of being okay with giving the IRS half of your income. Okay, so that's one thing. Another thing when it comes to heavy taxation is that with that particular trust, you are exempt from federal taxes, you're exempt from property taxes, sales taxes, and state taxes. So, for example, if you put your primary residence into the ministry trust, which you are allowed to do, then you will be saving on your annual property taxes. So I don't know how much your taxes are, but my county charges me $7,000 a year for my taxes. So you could be saving thousands of dollars again by having your house being transferred into that ministry trust and being approved for tax exemption of property taxes, okay? Another example that I want to give you when it comes to heavy taxation is just, you know what, actually, I'm going to move on to probate. So when it comes to probate, right, probate, a trust is the only way that you can avoid probate. Probate is also a transfer of wealth as well. So probate is where you don't have your affairs in order, right? So let's just say that you have assets. You have a house, a car, 6 figures in the bank, right? And so you have everything in your personal name and you expire tomorrow. How are those things going to be transferred to your children or your spouse? We don't think about that. And so unfortunately, our family is going to have to end up going to probate in order to get possession of our assets that was in our personal name. Okay, so that is you actually doing your family a disservice because now they're grieving over your death, but instead of them being able to grieve in peace, they're being dragged through the court system in order to keep the house or keep the car or, you know, have access to the funds in your bank account. And so you need to actually have your affairs in order and create your own estate, because if you expire with assets and you don't have an estate, the state that you live in is going to actually create an estate for you. Okay, so it's going to be John Doe estate, right? And then at that point in time, your house, your car, the bank account, everything is going to go into your estate. And your estate needs to be represented by a probate attorney, and it's going to end up in probate court. And the IRS is going to take theirs, right? Because I don't know if you know this, but the IRS taxes you when you die. So your estate is going to be subject to death tax, to inheritance tax, and to estate tax. So those are 3 different types of taxes that your estate is going to get exposed to, right? And then you actually, let's just say that you had debt when you expired, right? So you had student loan debt, credit card debt. So now not only is your estate going to be taken out of the IRS, right? The IRS is going to take out taxes from your estate, but also your creditors, right? So the student loans, the credit cards, that's also going to be taken out of your estate. Then you have the probate attorney fees, and then you have the probate court fees. So unfortunately, after everybody is paid off, then your family gets what's left over, okay? So at that point, like I said, if you do not have your affairs in order, you are doing your family a disservice because you're going to drag them through the probate system. A lot of people think that a will is enough, and it's not. A will not avoid probate. The only thing that it can avoid probate is a trust. So a will end up in probate. Okay, so a lot of people think that that a will, because it's notarized, it's it's going to hold up in court, but it's not. Let's move on. So let's talk about the wealth building formula, which is my favorite thing to talk about. We have 3 pillars here. We have structure, credit, and invest. Okay, so the first pillar, we have the structure, right? And so the structure is a business trust, a private family trust, and a tax exempt trust. Okay. So with that being said, you are going to adapt to this structure. So let's just say, for example, that you have an LLC or an S corporation, right? So you're going to establish the business trust. The business trust is going to own the LLC. Okay, so it's going to act as a holding company. Or what you can have is the business trust actually doing business. So you can choose how you want to use this entity, right? If you don't have an LLC or a corporation, then you can actually use this business trust in order to conduct business, right? If you had an e-com company or e-commerce business or anything like that, right? Or like I said, it can be used as a holding company. So let's just say that you have your LLC and it generated $100,000, right? So that LLC is actually going to do a K-1 distribution and it's going to distribute 100% of the money to your business trust. So now those funds are sitting in your business trust. So one thing that's very unique with the business trust is that one, if the funds stay within the trust, it doesn't trigger a taxable event. That's one. Two, you as the trustee, if it's a complex trust, you as the trustee can determine what is considered income, right? What is considered what we call DNI, distributable net income, right? So if you don't consider that 100,000 to be income, then guess what? You can't be taxed on it. Another thing is that the business trust can do a disbursement to the beneficiaries, and that won't also trigger a taxable event. So the business trust can actually disperse all the money to the private family trust. So now the 100,000 came from the LLC, and the LLC distributed it to the business trust, so the LLC doesn't pay any taxes. The business trust also distributed it to the private family trust, so the business trust has a 0% tax liability. And now the funds are in the private family trust. So once it reaches that level, that's where you're going to be expending for your family. So that's where your mortgage is going to come out of, your groceries, the kids' tuition, car note, all of those things, all of those expenses for your family. Okay. And at that point in time, whatever is left over is what you have to pay taxes on, because the business trust and the private family trust, those are for-profit entities. So they actually file taxes. It's called a 1041. Right. So we file a 1040 and the trust entity files a 1041. So with that being said, let's just say that $100,000, you spent it and it went all the way down to $20,000. So you would actually be taxed on the $20,000. And then at that point in time, you would have to pay taxes on that $20,000. But instead of you giving the money to the IRS, what you're going to do is you're going to donate that $20,000 to your tax exempt trust. That is your ministry trust. That is your faith-based organization. Other names for it are church, convention, things of that nature. Okay. So that is the trust that you're actually going to donate the $20,000 to. And now the private family trust has a 0% tax liability. And since that money is now in the tax exempt trust, it's tax exempt, meaning that you do not have to file federal taxes, state taxes, property taxes, sales taxes. So you're done filing taxes at that point. And when it gets to your tax exempt trust, you obviously have your charities and your philanthropic endeavors, and you can choose to allocate whatever money you want of that 20,000, right? If you wanted to, use 1,000 of it to a charity of your choice, you can. And then that other money is going to be used for investments. You can invest in real estate, crypto, whatever it is that you want, stocks, bonds, anything, businesses, anything that you want. So that is extremely powerful. So I always tell people, you want to have a nonprofit arm within your structure, right? So this is the type of structure that you want to implement in order for you to, one, save on taxes and be in a position to where you're protected, as well as build wealth faster, because you're not giving away your money, right? So now let's move on to pillar 2, which is credit. So like I told you in the beginning of the call, a business trust can actually do things that a natural person can do. So you can actually build credit with your trust, okay? You can build business credit with your trust, and that is the same process as building business credit for an LLC or a corporation, right? So what does that process looks like? You actually getting a DUNS number, creating a profile with Dun & Bradstreet, you getting a couple of trade lines with, with account receivables and net 30s. And at that point in time, you will be able to generate a paydex score and actually start building credit, right? You can either be a personal guarantee or not, just depending on your strategy and what you want to use. And if you want to tie in your personal credit to you actually building business credit for the trust, right? But at that point in time, you are going to build credit for the trust so that we can move on to the next pillar, which is investing, right? You want to be able to leverage your credit, okay? Leverage the trust credit so that the trust can actually be in a position to where it is generating its own income. So then from that point on, we have, after you've established credit, you also are eligible for nonprofit grants because you have a nonprofit within your structure, which is that ministry trust, right? So once you have raised some capital through credit or through grants, then at that point you want to invest. Okay, so the investments, the two investments that I actually recommend are the Index Universal Life Insurance Policy and real estate. So with the Index Universal Life Insurance Policy, a lot of people think that insurance is supposed to be used for when they die. But in actuality, you want to use insurance when you are living because it has living benefits. So the Index Universal Life Insurance Policy is actually, it mirrors the market, right? That's why it has that word index in it, right? So it mirrors the stock market. You can choose whichever index you want. There's various ones that they give you the option to choose from. You have the NASDAQ, the Dow Jones, and the S&P 500. So my policy is actually mirrors the S&P 500, right? And so now because you are mirroring the market, if the market is doing 9%, then the actual insurance company is going to credit your cash value and give you 9%, right? So that's one thing that's beautiful. But now if we're in a down market, let's say that the market is negative 5%, you are risk-free because the actual because you have like a floor, right? And so you're not going to go below a certain number. So that could be 0, that could be 1. It just depends on your policy, your insurance policy carrier. Okay. So with that being said, an IUL policy actually builds what we call cash value. So you have a death benefit, and then you also have cash value, which is another bucket within the insurance policy. So what you want to do is you want to put yourself in a position to where you're going to be building wealth tax-free, because your actual insurance policy, one, it is tax-free, so the IRS is not going to come after you. But two, it is seen as an asset and it is liquid. Okay. So when I'm talking about but two, you have to think about these other companies, right? You have the big banks like Wells Fargo, Citibank, and all of these big banks, and their number one investments are, a lot of people think it's like mortgages and credit cards and all this other stuff, but no, it's actually insurance policies. So if Wells Fargo and Chase Bank's number one investments are insurance policies, then yours should also be insurance policies. That's one. The United States, their number one investments is insurance policies as well. They have an insurance policy on all of us. That's how we're able to get these social benefits when we, get of age, right? Because they have an insurance policy on us. So if their number one investment is insurance policy, then your number one investment should also be insurance policies, okay? So what are you going to do? You're going to actually put yourself in a position to where you're paying yourself first, okay? That is how you're going to build wealth efficiently and effectively. So what do I mean by that? I mean that if you get paid, right? So this is our typical process. Let's just say it's Friday and we just got paid, $10,000, right? So normally what we would do is we would actually pay our bills. So that's what we pay first. But actually, the IRS gets theirs, right? So once you actually get your paycheck, the IRS already took their money, Social Security already took their money, Medicare already took their money. And so you actually got what was left over. And with that, with the leftovers, what you do is you pay bills first, right? So you pay your mortgage, your car note, gas, groceries, all of these things, and whatever's left over after that is what you decide to save. That's what you put into a savings account, or you just leave it sitting in your checking account, right? So that is what the usual process looks like for us. And that is the wrong way of doing things, right? That is not the right way to build wealth. It takes a mindset shift in order for you to actively build wealth. And so the way you're going to do that is by putting yourself in a position to where you are paying yourself first. So what do I mean by this? That same $10,000 that already ended up, with $2,000 at the end of you paying your bills, what you're going to do is, instead of you paying your bills, you are going to park that money inside of your insurance policy, meaning that you're going to pay your premium. That money is going to go straight to your cash value, right? And then what you're going to do is, so now your cash value went up by $10,000. And like we said, it mirrors the market, right? So if the market is doing 9%, then you're going to actually earn 9% on that $10,000. So that's the most important piece of what I'm telling you right now, is that you're actually going to be generating money, or you're going to get a return on your investment from that $10,000 that you were going to use to pay your bills, right? So you have the $10,000 sitting in your cash value. And now what you're going to do is you're going to get a distribution from the insurance company. So you're going to call them up, or you're going to submit a paper letting them know that you want to borrow, take out a loan for $10,000, right? And so they are going to look at your asset, and they're going to see, okay, she has $10,000 in her cash value. So yes, we can lend her that money, right? And so now they're going to issue you a loan, either by check, or they can do a direct deposit, whatever you prefer. And so what's going to happen is that money, that loan, is going to come from the insurance company. Okay, so it's going to come from their reserves, from their money. They are not going to take out the $10,000 from your cash value. So your money is still sitting in your policy, generating 9%. And now you're borrowing that $10,000. So you're leveraging your cash value, you're borrowing that $10,000, and you're going to now use it to pay your bills. So once they, direct deposit it into your account, now you're able to pay your mortgage, your groceries, your car note, and everything else that you were going to pay for, right? So you have to do it this way, to where when you first get paid, you funnel the money into your policy and then borrow it back out and pay your bills. Because the other way we said it is, if you pay your bills first, you only end up with $2,000. And if you were to put that $2,000 into your insurance policy, then you would only be getting 9% on $2,000, right? So we want 9% on 10, not 9% on 2. And you do not have to pay the loan back. So I'm going to repeat that. You don't have to pay the insurance company back for that $10,000 loan, because that money is going to be deducted from your death benefit, okay? So it's optional if you want to pay it back. If you want to pay it back, then that means that you're going to be putting more money into your cash value, and you're going to be growing wealth faster, right? You're just going to be paying yourself all over again. So that is the power of actually using your insurance policy. So now the strategy is that you are actually going to have your trust be the owner of your policy. The trust is going to be the owner, the payer, and the beneficiary of your policy. That is extremely powerful. Why? Because your policy, if it's owned by you, then guess what? The IRS is going to take theirs. I've been saying it and I'm going to continue to say it. The IRS is going to charge you death tax, inheritance tax, estate tax. So that means they're going to go after your death benefit, and whatever's left over is going to be going over to the family. Okay. So to avoid all of that, you're going to have your trust be the owner of your insurance policy, the payer, and the beneficiary, so that when you expire, that money is going to go to the trust. Okay. Because you are a human asset. You are a human resource. You are a human capital when it comes to the trust. You are the trustee. So that is extremely important, okay? Another thing is that you want to avoid that 3-year rule. So if you do not have an insurance policy yet, set up your trust first before you set up the policy to avoid the 3-year rule for the IRS. So that means that, one, if your policy is owned by an individual and then you switch the ownership to a trust and you die within 3 years of switching that ownership to a trust, then the IRS is still going to tax your death benefit. Okay, so if you don't have a policy yet, you want to set up the trust first, and then you have the trust do the application and take out the policy for you. Okay, that is the best way to do it, because you don't want the IRS taking a piece of that death benefit. So the next investment that I want to tell you guys about is real estate, right? So let's fast forward. Let's just say that we built some corporate credit for our business trust. Let's just say that we got a credit card with $50,000. That $50,000, we are going to strip the card, right? Take that money out and leverage it. The first place that we're going to park that $50,000 is inside of our insurance policy. That's a must and a non-negotiable. So that $50,000 is going to sit in our insurance policy, and it's going to be generating 9%, right? So that's income. That's passive. That's one. So now you're going to borrow that $50,000 out from the insurance company, and now you're going to use it for a down payment on real estate, right? Because we're building generational wealth and we need some tangible assets. So we are going to park it in real estate, okay? So now typically, a good real estate strategy that I want to share with you guys is that what you want to do is you want to purchase a house, okay? So you're going to use that $50,000 as a down payment to purchase a house. And typically what we do is, let's just say that you got a 5-bedroom house. We will put a family in there, and we would actually charge them on a monthly basis, and we'll give them a year lease. That's typically what we do, right? But you have to do the math. So if you have 52 weeks in a year and you divide by 4, which is typically 4 weeks in a month, what number do you get? You get 13, which means that there's 13 months in a year, not 12. But we're only charging these families 12 payments, right? We're only receiving 12 payments a year. And that is actually a disservice to you. So you're actually making less money, right? So how are we going to recover the money? And the way that we do that is by charging weekly. So that's the first thing that we're going to do. We're going to charge weekly, because now instead of us taking or earning 12 payments in a year from our cash flow, we are going to now be generating or earning 52 payments in a year. So we're going to be receiving more money. So that's one, you've already increased your revenue. 2, instead of you renting to a family, you're going to rent by room, right? So that means that instead of you having one tenant for that 5-bedroom house that we just spoke about, you're going to have 5 tenants. So now you're going to be receiving 5 rental payments on a weekly basis. We are talking about some serious cash flow here, guys. Okay. So instead of you normally traditionally going to make $2,500 on this property, now you're going to double that and make $5,000 on this property. So where is that $5,000 going to go? That $5,000 is going to go once you receive your payments. That $5,000 is going to go into your insurance policy. And then from your insurance policy, you're going to borrow it out and pay the mortgage. So that is a strategy that you guys can use in order to build wealth, right? And you're purchasing this property with your trust. Your trust can take out a mortgage. Your trust can own the house. Your trust is going to own your insurance policy. So now that's 2 income streams for your trust. Your trust is going to be self-sustained, right? We don't have to pour in our W-2 money into our trust. The trust is going to generate its own money. And then we're going to borrow from time to time so that we can splurge and go on vacations and do whatever we need to do. So how do we transfer the wealth, right? Like I told you guys in the beginning of this call, we are so wrapped around, 1, becoming millionaires, 2, creating generational wealth. And we're so focused on that we don't even stop to think, how are we going to actually transfer the wealth? I got the $1 million, but how am I going to transfer it to my kids? So you want to put yourself in a position to where you own nothing but control everything. And I'm going to say that again, because that statement is so profound. You want to put yourself in a position to where you own nothing but control everything. So the goal is not ownership. A lot of us were proud. We're like, yes, I own this house, but somebody can take your house away from you tomorrow. So you don't really want to be the owner of your house. So in order to protect your assets, you need to control your assets. And so you need to move from ownership to stewardship. Stewardship is where you are controlling the assets and you're being a good steward of the wealth and growing the wealth. So that's the goal. So when it comes to your trust is going to actually generate trust certificate units, or UBIs, which are units of beneficial interest. So a trust certificate unit is exactly like a stock certificate, okay? So with that being said, it actually is, with a stock certificate, you see it as ownership in a company, right? And so with a trust certificate unit, it's beneficial interest in the trust. So your trust is going to create 100 trust certificate units, which are going to be equivalent to 100% of beneficial interest. So your beneficiaries are going to get TCUs. So let's just say that you have 10 beneficiaries, then that means that you are going to actually, issue, if you wanted to keep it fair, you're going to issue 10 units per beneficiary, right? And that is going to equal 100%. We don't do fractions here, okay? So now, let's say that your trust just generated 100,000 and that 100,000 is going to be distributed to the beneficiaries. That means that you're going to distribute according to how many trust certificate units those beneficiaries have. So out of that 100,000 in income, you're going to distribute 10,000 per beneficiary if you have the 10 beneficiaries that have the 10 units. Another thing is that when your trust is dissolved, all of those assets go to the beneficiaries. So let's just say you had 100 houses, right? And you have these 10 beneficiaries. Then that means that 10 houses are going to be deeded over per beneficiary. Okay, so that is what that transfer looks like. So this is the best way in order to transfer your wealth, right? Because if everything is owned by the trust, meaning the house, the bank accounts, the insurance policies, when you expire, there's nothing that your family has to do. There's no transfer that needs to be happening because everything is owned by the trust and the trust is staying intact, and you have a successor and they're going to pick up where you left off. That is extremely powerful. So that is the type of transfer of wealth that you want to implement within your family dynamics, because now you're actually changing the trajectory of your family and you're getting rid of generational curses, because you are actually bringing up your kids to where they are going to be the successor trustees of the trust. So they already know, I'm going to take over and I'm going to start operating this trust, once my family transitions. So that's what the transfer of wealth needs to look like. The last one is preservation. So with preservation, I had touched on it earlier with the importance of the insurance policy. Is so important. So you, like I said, are a human resource. You're a human asset. You are a human capital when it comes to the trust, you and everybody else. So it's all of the trustees, it's all of the beneficiaries. Okay. So with that being said, that means that the trust needs to take out a policy on everybody. So you need to have a policy and all of the beneficiaries need to have a policy. So that in the event that you expire because of that major loss, right? So you expired. The trust just lost their trustee. That was the most important person within the trust. So the trust needs to be compensated for that loss. So what's going to happen is that death benefit is going to go to the trust. And that is what's going to preserve the wealth, because now you're getting that replenishment into the trust bank account for a couple $1 million. So that's one way of preservation. Next, the trust is actually going to take out a policy on every single beneficiary that is born, right? So all of your kids that are born, as soon as they're 30 days old, the trust is going to apply and insure them. Okay, and the trust is going to pay their premium, for the length of their life. So that is extremely powerful, because now let's say fast forward to this beneficiary being 18 years old. So you have a beneficiary, he's 18 years old and he wants to purchase his first car. So in a normal situation, that beneficiary is going to go to the dealership and that beneficiary is going to take out a loan for $30,000 to purchase that vehicle. And they're going to have payments of $500 now for 5 years. So that is a normal situation. Or an alternative is, because they're a trust fund baby, because they are a beneficiary to a trust, they can actually go to the trust. So they go to the trust, and you being the trustee operating it, and they ask the trust for a loan, because beneficiaries can take out loans from the trust as well as trustees. So they get a loan from the trust for the $30,000 so that they're able to purchase their first vehicle. So the trust is going to issue a loan for the $30,000 to the beneficiary. You're going to execute a promissory note, like we said, from the beneficiary to the trust, that the beneficiary is going to pay back the trust 2% interest, $350 a month. So now that beneficiary is actually saving money, because now they're paying 2% versus 10. And now their payments are $350 versus $500. So now the trust is generating income. But where did that money come from? So that $30,000 actually came from their insurance policy. So what the trustee did was took out a loan from the beneficiary's insurance policy for the $30,000 and then issued them a check for the $30,000. So now this is a risk-free loan because in actuality, it doesn't need to be paid back because it's going to be taken out of the death benefit. So that money didn't come from the trust fund money. It came from the beneficiary's insurance policy. So that's one. So that's how you guys can fund your kids' tuitions and things of that nature. You can help them buy their first house, all of this stuff when we think about generational wealth. So now let's just say hypothetically, fast forward to a year later, that beneficiary doesn't want to make that payment for $350 anymore. So they default. So then what happens? Well, it was risk-free for the trust because it came from the policy and it's going to be taken out the death benefit. So then what happens is once that beneficiary expires, the trust is going to be paid back because they received the death benefit. So that is how you're going to preserve the wealth for generations and generations and generations. You have families out here that are in their 9th and 10th generation of their trust estate empire. So we need to catch up. So these are the books that I recommend. You have What Would the Rockefellers Do?, which is a good book on how to teach you how to, one, implement this infinite banking or be your own bank with the insurance, as well as how to be a trustee. And then the other one is The Art of Passing the Buck, Volume 1 and 2, which teaches you about, trusteeship and how to operate a trust. Then you have Family Wealth, which teaches you about how to actually create a family office and run your family like a business. And then you have the Complete Book of Trust, which actually teaches you about the different types of trust. So take action on the information that I provided you guys today. I taught you guys how you can actually save 60% of your income by donating it to your trust. So you only have to pay taxes on 40. That is extremely powerful. The trust can be your new form of doing business, making profit, and saving money, and actually building wealth. So you want to treat this like a big business. You want to treat this like a Facebook, an Amazon, a Google. You don't want to treat this like anything small. So I want to empower you guys and let you know that you definitely need to set up a trust in order to protect your assets and in order to really build wealth. So let's work together. I have a program where you can either do it yourself, and it comes with 42 video modules. You actually have lifetime access to it. It comes with a bunch of resources. So it comes with the trust templates, the 3 trusts that I told you about, right? So the program comes with the business trust, the family trust, and the tax exempt trust. And you get all the resources that you need. So you need to do board meeting minutes. You also need to pay taxes, so you get all the tax forms that you need and all of the strategies in order for you to reduce your taxes, guys, and build wealth faster by doing that. You also get the ebooks. So the books that I just recommended, some of those books are valued at $700 or more. So you actually get them in the program, the ebook version. And then we also have a Facebook community where you guys can actually ask questions, get support, and be communicating with other trustees. So this do-it-yourself course is $997. But if you need accountability and if you want to do it and make sure that your trust is set up the right way, then I have the Done With You, where me and you, we go together on 5 Zoom calls, right? And it's going to be done in a group setting to where we are actually setting up your trust. So day 1, we set up your business trust. Day 2, we set up your family trust. Day 3, we set up your ministry trust. Day 4, we actually apply for your EINs. We start establishing your business credit. And day 5, we are going to be talking about infinite banking, and we transferring your assets. So if you need to fill out a quitclaim deed, we do that on day 5. So you have 5 Zoom calls plus unlimited assistance, lifetime access to the course, and everything that's included with the do-it-yourself, with the community resources and ebooks. But you have that accountability to make sure that you actually get it done. And you have that that security to know that your trust is actually set up the right way. So the done with you is $14.97. And I'm actually going to show you guys what the actual program looks like. If you guys have any questions, you guys can email me. You can visit me on social media. You can visit the website, wealthytrustee.com. And you can also text the number that actually gave you the Zoom link for tonight. So let me show you what the program looks like, as well as what a trust looks like, so that you guys know and are familiar. Let's see. All right, so this is what the trust looks like. Here you see the stuff in red. So that is the information that you need to provide in order to actually fill out the template. So you get the templates for the 3 trusts. So this is the table of contents. These are all the actual provisions within the trust, all the articles. So this is what's going to actually protect you. And then we have the actual declaration of contract. So this is where we are declaring what type of trust it is. And then we actually have the indentures. So this is the different sections. So this trust actually has 38 sections. So these are all the provisions that that we talk about, all the restrictions, the trustee powers, how to operate the actual trust, okay? So we go over all of this either in the course, it's a video module, and then you do it yourself, or we can do it together on the workshop. So this is where you get it notarized. All right, so it does need to be notarized by the grantor and the trustee. Then you have your Schedule A, which is where you're going to document your thing of value. Okay, so whatever you're exchanging of value for the actual trust, you're going to document it here. So if it's $1,000, you're going to put $1,000 there. And then the trust is actually going to create those 100 trust certificate units. Okay, and then it's going to be notarized, and then you have the distribution of those trust certificate units. Okay, and then you have the Schedule B, where you're going to be listing the properties that, or the assets that you're putting into the trust. Then the Schedule C is where you're going to list the beneficiary information. Schedule D is a memorandum of personal property, meaning that if you have 10 houses and you want the houses in Georgia to go to beneficiary A and the houses in Pennsylvania to go to beneficiary B, then you can actually set that up and put that information here. And then we have the certificate of trust, which is the proof of identity for the actual trust. So this is where this is what you're going to take with you when you are going to the banks, or when you are going to, you know, any of these places like the dealerships and the title companies and stuff like that. In order for you to be able to acquire, you know, a bank account or a car or anything like that, okay? So that's going to be notarized as well. And so that is it. I wanted to show you guys what the trust program looks like, but I don't see that it's pulling up. Let's see if it comes up. No? Okay. Well, anyways, what I want to do is I want to introduce my partner. So his name is Mondo Grimes, and he is an infinite banking specialist, insurance specialist. So he's going to be talking to you guys about building wealth with insurance. So I just want to introduce him. Mondo.
Hey, how you doing? Good evening, everyone. My name is Mondo Grimes, as Christina said. I'm going to share my screen so we can go over a few details regarding infinite banking, okay? And then at the end, I'm sure Christina and I both will be receiving questions. So let me pull this up and we will go from there. Here we go. All right. All right, Christina, can you see my screen?
Perfect.
All right, perfect. All right, I'm going to do this. All right, here we go. All right, start here. Infinite banking, being your own banker. This is a strategy that most people haven't heard of until maybe on Instagram or different sources out there. You've heard the term, you've heard the idea of being your own bank, but maybe not really sure how to execute that. Here at AMG and Associates, myself and my wealth advisory team, we do our best to make sure that you not only understand infinite banking and how to be your own banker, but making sure that everything you have regarding assets are protected within the policy that you have within your trust. Okay. All right. So what is infinite banking? It's a personal finance strategy that leverages a permanent life insurance policy as a personal bank. Okay. So using an index universal life policy, as Christina mentioned. Now, what are the benefits though? So we heard that from Christina, but what are the benefits? Insurance is the safest industry to invest in by far for multiple reasons. Number one, uninterrupted compounding growth in your policy. I will show you an example of that shortly. It yields 5 to 6 times more than any long-term CD and guaranteed returns. As you heard Christina say earlier, there is a floor. So regardless of what the market is doing, you will always be in the positive. Another benefit is that you have access to your money anytime without penalty and tax-free withdrawals, okay? You have access to your money anytime. And I think that's one concern that some people may have is that, well, if I put it in here, like how quickly can I get it out? Literally within 24 to 48 hours, okay? It's a real simple process. It allows you to retire 100% income tax-free. Based upon how we structure the policy, you can structure to where the policy is paying you at a certain age, X amount of dollars per year in your retirement years, tax-free. There's no reporting to the IRS, as Christina mentioned. So Uncle Sam does not mess with these policies. Now, you're protected. This is huge. You're protected against lawsuits, inflation, recessions, and adjustments in most states. This is huge. So this money that you have in your cash value in your policy is protected. No judgment, no lawsuit, no nothing can affect in a negative way your policy, okay, and your cash. There's no credit check. So as Christina was talking about regarding the child wanting to buy a $30,000 vehicle, guess what? You don't have to go get a credit check for a loan to get a car, get a piece of real estate, to get a small business loan, any sort of thing like that. There's no credit check and no financial statements required to receive loans from your own policy. There's no repayment terms required. You are not obligated to pay it back. You're like, well, how is that? Well, there's no collateral because the collateral is your death benefit. Okay, that's why if you look at that, if you have a $1 million policy and you've taken a loan out for $100,000, well, when you expire, guess what? Your death benefit is going to be $900,000 and not $1 million. Okay, easily accessible liquid cash. Again, just to reiterate that again. So, for instance, if you deposit money, that's today. Okay, say it's Monday. Literally Wednesday, you can get it right back. Okay, so it's not a week-long process. It's a real simple one form. You check 2-3 boxes, sign the bottom of it, submit it in, you're good. Money will flow back and forth with that kind of ease. It's liquid cash. Okay, here's a basic flow of how it works. So the foundation of being your own bank, as Christina mentioned, here's the cash, is your paycheck, whatever it is. You get a lump sum of money. You skip the bank. You do not go to the bank first. You go to your life insurance policy. Okay, so this is a massive paradigm shift for people. Okay, like, well, now I got to put it in the bank. No. Put it over here in your life insurance policy. Okay, and there's reasons for that because you want to take advantage of this, an uninterrupted compounding growth. You want to accumulate your value. Now, some other benefits of the cash value we talked about. Number one, tax-free. You can leverage your cash value for multiple reasons. There's income if you desire to take income at a certain age. So income replacement, even if you lose your job and you say, man, I really need a paycheck. Well, guess what? there's a policy that can pay you, and you're doing private banking without having to go to banks and credit unions to get permission to leverage their funds. You leverage your own. And then over here, you have, of course, the death benefit that will actually keep your trust going forward for generations to come. And again, there's living benefits in this as well. So let's say, for instance, you sick with, critical illness, chronic illness, terminal illness. The policies we structure allow you to liquidate up to 50% of your death benefit, not your cash value, of your death benefit. So you can have those funds to take care of medical expenses, living expenses, whatever it is you want to take care of is at your discretion. And of course, you can use it as collateral against loans against the policy. Okay. Here's an example. Go over, if you can, take your eyes over to the green little section first. This is what we're going to focus on. If you quickly go to the left of the third column, it says planned premium outlay. This is on a 45-year-old male, just a basic example here. Paying $12,000 into his policy per year for 10 years. So $1,000 a month. Okay, so just easy math here. If you look over in the green section, the account value, that is the cash value. Each year, if you see, first year, $9,634, $19,000 next year, 30, and all the way down to 131 within 10 years. Okay. Over to the far right column, you see the net death benefit. This is the death benefit. If he were to expire, his beneficiary, the trust, will receive these funds. Now, this is not even doing infinite banking, guys. This is just an IUL policy, and you're just setting it and forgetting it. Now, that's not the idea we're encouraging. We're just saying this is just an IUL policy doing what it does naturally. And you can see the power of it. If you just bought it and just set it and forget it, don't even touch it. Now, imagine if you're doing infinite banking. What if you're putting your check in here every month? Any sort of additional cash, liquid cash that you receive, any sort of profits, and you're putting, what happens to that cash value? If you look up, you see here in a down market, this particular policy, the illustration was based upon, we based it on a 6.54 return. We've done policies at certain times of where the market has been at 11, 12, 13%. Okay, we're in a down market, still getting 6.54. Okay, so that's a brief example of this. And again, each individual based upon your age, male, female, et cetera, different in your investment into your policy. Again, I use that word because that's what it is. It's an investment. Christina said it earlier, it is not a payment, it is an investment for multiple reasons. Okay, here's a quick overview of our wealth advisory team. Obviously, me in the middle. Over to the left, we have Bob Shigley, wealth management specialist. Jonathan Shaw, he's our insurance specialist. Charles Frazier is a gentleman who used to work for the IRS for 12 years and then transferred into practicing law. He is a tax attorney and a phenomenal resource for some of our clients who are maybe coming out of some challenging tax situations. Marketing consulting for small business owners with AJ Lavender down bottom right. Rich Birchhill is a CPA, wealth management and tax specialist. Who is phenomenal. Between Bob and Rich alone, there's over 60 years plus of experience in their respective industries. And then you look at to the bottom left, Eric Howard. He's a CEO of First Generation Life Insurance Company and a partner of mine. So these are the resources that have partnered with 7 Ways to Wealth and Christina. Now, most people want to know, well, what's the process, Mondo? What do you have to do? Well, first, you have to handle your business with your trust. Number one, we don't want to do things backwards. Okay. Again, you don't want that 3-year stipulation to hit you by taking out an IUL first and then establishing your trust, and you're just complicating things. We want to do things in the right order. Okay. So first you would need to get your trust in order. Once you have that private family trust completed and in place, then we look at taking out an IUL. The policies owned by the trust is the payor and is also the beneficiary. And we look at the best options for you. Okay. The first meeting is an initial consultation. Any of the participants in the program, the consultation is a part of your payment. And then we do not charge our consultation fee to clients of Christina's. And then we also have the second stage where the wealth advisor will go over a customized plan. Typically myself and Bob will go over a customized plan for you in your trust. And then the third meeting we have is decision-making time. We look at the application, review everything, and we take it to underwriting. And within 7 days, everything will be complete. Okay. So that, my friends, is the process of getting your IUL situated within your trust, and some of the basic bullets about what is infinite banking. What does that even look like? What does this even mean? So from a foundational standpoint, we hope that from a 30,000 foot view, you can understand the basics and how it is truly an investment within your private family trust. All right, Christina, swinging it back to you.
Thank you, Mondo. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys what the program looks like, and then I'm going to open the floor for questions because I know you guys have a lot of questions. I do see some questions in the chat for me and Mondo. So just give me a brief moment. I'm going to share my screen so I can show you guys what the program looks like and give you a couple more, some more information. So this is what I wanted to show you guys earlier. This is a Wealthy Trustee program. It comes with 42 training modules. So you learn actually what a trust entity is, who are the people involved, the grantor, trustee, beneficiaries, successors, protectors. And then you also learn about the declaration and the articles when it comes to the actual trust. So I actually go through every single paragraph of the trust, right? So the business trust is like, 52 pages. The family trust is 25 pages and the ministry trust is 59 pages, right? So you actually need to know the contents of your trust if you're going to be intentional about operating the trust as a trustee, okay? So learn that information. I've talked to hundreds of people and some of them have trust, and people just, whoever they bought their trust from just handed them a stack of papers and didn't teach them. They were too intimidated to even start using it. So then you learn about the family trust in this section. You learn about the unincorporated business trust, how to set it up, how to actually apply for your EIN numbers, how to do your board meetings. And then you learn about the different tax strategies that I was telling you guys, because you want to put yourself in a position to where you can actually save 60% of your income and not give it to the IRS by donating it to your trust. Once it's at your trust, you can do whatever investments you need to do, or you can take it back out as a loan and use that money for whatever you need to use it on. But you need to save on your taxes. Be intentional about that. So this is where we teach you the different tax strategies that I talked about. And then under this section is the asset protection, where you learn how to open up a bank account, brokerage account, how to transfer your house, your car, your insurance policies, and your businesses. And then last is the wealth creation, where you learn about how to build corporate credit for your trust, how to invest in the stock market, and how to do the infinite banking. So I actually do have, let me stop sharing my screen. So with the Done With You service, I do have a workshop that's coming up this week. So it's coming up this Monday. Is from 7 to 9, and we're going to be going from Monday through Friday. So if you guys want to start setting up your trust as soon as next week, then you want to enroll into the program, as soon as possible, at least up until Monday, because the prices are going up. So right now I share the prices with you guys, right? Done With You is $14.97, but the price is going to go up on Monday. So this is the last time that I will be offering it at this price. So take advantage now while you can. So I'm going to open up the floor for any questions, and I do see some in the chat, so I will be jumping in the chat, but please raise your hand if you have any questions. Let's see what we have. So one person said, when do you pay back the credit card? So you borrow the money out of the insurance policy, you pay back the credit card and the mortgage. So the next one is, what kind of trust will purchase the insurance policy? Your family trust will actually put out the policy. Okay, so they're the ones who are going to do the application for the policy, the insurance policy. The next one is, what about land trust? So land trust is a different type of trust that's specifically for real estate. It's not only land, but it's any type of real estate. And that, that could be a trust that you guys incorporate within your structure. You could also own real estate with any of the trusts that I spoke about today. Let's see. Next one is, how would someone who's retired on a budget do this without a business? How would someone, so you're asking because you're retired on a budget, how you would get structured, right? So, I mean, it doesn't matter if you're retired or if you are working, you can still implement what we've told you. But if you're retired, you're probably, I don't know if you're paying taxes or not. So I feel like that's a very individualized question. So if you want to come off of mute and clarify, you can. I think to sell my home and start over. Okay. And what else? I think, Mondo, this question is for you. So to be able to get the death benefit while you're living, do you have to pay for it in total or in advance?
Okay, so let's okay. You can't withdraw from the death benefit. The death benefit is only applied when you pass. Okay. So you can't get the death benefit, but you can borrow from the insurance company and they use the death benefit as collateral. The only way you can access the death benefit is on the rider for critical, chronic, or terminal illness. And that, of course, was with documentation from your physician stating that you have a terminal, chronic, or critical illness. That being the case, that's when you can tap into the death benefit before expiring. Okay. That's the only way you can tap into the death benefit. Now you can tap into your cash value though. Okay. You can borrow from the insurance company. The collateral obviously is the death benefit because they will deduct it if you do not pay it back. So I'm not sure if that clarifies or answers your question, but you cannot take money out of the death benefit like you're not borrowing from the death benefit. If I guess what I'm trying to understand the question clearly, but
yeah, I think so. Yeah, they're borrowing from the cash value, not the death benefit. Some
right.
people, yeah, someone asked me that question, like, oh, okay, if I have $1 million death benefit, when can I borrow from it? You can't. You have to money into the policy and borrow what you put in.
Right.
So the next question is, does the 1,500 include both sides, videos and all? Yes. So the 1,497 includes the 5 in-person Zoom calls where me and you are going to be setting up your trust together, but it does include the lifetime access to the course. So anything that I'm putting into the course in the future, you guys are going to get access to. So I am going to be adding a foreign trust in the future, probably in the next, 60 to 90 days. And so you guys, whoever is already in the program, will have access to a 4th trust. So the next question is, my husband gets paid weekly. So basically, once we have our trust in place with Christina and our proof for the policy after 7 days, we would just put our weekly check into the IUL and can take it back out within a day or two. So the more often we pay on the policy, the more money we can borrow against the policy, right?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
All right. The next question, is the foreign trust the same as the family trust? So a foreign international trust is different. The family trust is a common law pure trust. So it's a non-statutory trust. Next question, what about your wages? How does that work with a trust? So I'm not sure what you mean by what about your wages, Crystal. Maybe you're talking about like, how do you save taxes on it? How does that work with a trust and your wages? So let me just give you one example, because I think this is probably what you're talking about. So let's just say that you wanted to pay your mortgage, right? And so the trust doesn't have any money. Then what you would do is you would actually, from your wages, you would put the money into the trust, and then the trust would pay the mortgage. So that's one example that I think is in relation to what you mean. Let me go to some questions. So Louisa, I see you have your hand up.
I did put it in the chat. Mine was, can you transfer your debt into a trust?
Oh, okay. So yeah, you can actually refinance your debt into a trust. So for example, if you had, let's just say you had a mortgage, right? And the mortgage was in your personal name, it's on your personal credit, you can refinance that house and you can put it into the trust, and now it's going to be taken off of your personal credit. So whatever debt you're referring to, you can refinance it into the trust, and then you can also bankrupt the trust. So that's a thing too. Any other questions?
Hello,
Yeah.
Christina.
Oh, hold on one second.
This is Patricia. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hold on one second. Let me make sure Louisa was done. Louisa, did that answer your
Yes,
question?
yes. You did. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Hi, Patricia. How are you?
I'm doing well, doing well. Now, the 1497, does it include as well that Monday through Friday class?
Yes, it does.
And that is, go ahead,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It does, yeah. So it includes the workshop. So that's where you get the 5 Zoom calls, is in the workshop. So on day 1 of the workshop, we go through the business trust. On day 2, we go through the family trust. So we're actually going to go through the content, and then we're going to set it up together. On day 3, we go through the ministry trust. Day 4, we apply for your EINs and we establish your business credit. And then on day 5, we transfer your assets. So I show you how to transfer your car through the bill of sale that you have to submit through to the DMV, how to do your quit claim deeds, and how to do the purchase agreement for your business. So you're going to be selling your business to the trust so that you remove all ties to yourself, so that they don't have to come back to you and say that you still are associated with that business if you really want to conceal your identity. So that's what we do on day 5. And then Mondo teaches us about infinite banking and how to actually start that policy for the trust. So that's what we go through on the workshop, and it starts this Monday on the 17th at 7 p.m. EST. So we do 2 hours a day, Monday through Friday. So you guys will be set up next week if you decide to enroll into the program till the done with you.
Okay, and so that is at the end of that week period, if you're following along and very diligent about it, then you're set.
You are set, yes. If you followed along, yep, exactly. Because I'm literally setting up the trust live with you guys, and you guys are also, being intentional. So being on your laptop and actually going through the templates and doing everything simultaneously. So you should have your first trust set up day 1, your second trust set up day 2, and your third set up day 3. And then you also have access to the replays, so that if there's 1 or 2 things that you missed or needed clarification on, you can go back to the recordings. And so you should be done and ready to go. Have your EINs. We also go through your board meeting so that you can, by Thursday or Friday, you should be able to walk up into the bank, open up a bank account, and start operating your trust.
Okay. And the templates, are those in that program, or is that something that's sent to you before each class?
Yeah, so the resources, you can find them in 2 places. You can find them in your online portal. So once you enroll into the program, you are going to receive a login and password. You log into the portal, you go down to the bottom to where it says resources. You will find the templates there, but my assistant will be emailing them. So they will be an attachment for day 1. You'll have all the resources that you need for day 1, which includes the templates.
Okay, good deal. All right, thanks a lot.
You're so welcome, Patricia. Thank you so much for asking that good question. Louisa, I see your hand up. Do you have a question, or did we forget to lower your hand? Okay, all right. Next is heal7@aol.com.
Yes. I'd like to know if I'm able to put my Social Security and my pension inside of the banking system or the trust or the universal life insurance policy.
Yeah. So your Social Security and your pension, you can transfer it into the trust bank account. but you can't transfer the ownership. So that Social Security or pension is still going to be attached to your name. But those funds that are deposited into your account can go into the trust account. And then I'll let Mondo answer about the insurance part.
Okay.
Yeah, so unfortunately, we cannot transfer straight from the government into a policy. Okay. So no different than what Christina just mentioned. Once you receive those funds, then you can make the deposit into your policy.
Okay. All right, gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, there has to be a paper trail. So you know that the trust is going to be the payer of the insurance policy. So those funds need to go park in the trust, and
Right.
then you can pay your policy.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you for asking that good question. Next, we have.
Thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Bald head profit.
What's up, Christina? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I just have two quick questions.
All
One,
right.
will real estate modules be available to all your students potentially in the future for people who are needing to know what to do to begin in real estate, or is that something maybe you won't offer?
Yeah, that's something that I'm currently working on right now. So the strategy that I briefly touched on tonight, I'm working right now diligently to get those modules into the program so that I can teach you guys, because I've been a real estate investor since 2015. I've been flipping houses. So I flipped houses from 2015 all the way to 2021. And now I'm actually getting into development. So I actually have a mentor that's teaching me how to acquire land so that I can build like 200-300 units. So, but I use the strategies that I'm telling you guys about. So yes, they are going to be available, and anything and everything that that I'm going to come up with in the future is going to be in the program. So there's going to be real estate as well as other investments that I'm going to add in there as well that I personally do. So you guys are going to have lifetime access to it. So whenever there's a new module, you just go in there and start educating and getting those resources.
Sweet. Appreciate that. Now, my second question is, it may be a crazy question, but when you talk about transferring your, like, say, I have stellar credit history with my personal vehicle and my mortgage, right? When I go to transfer that over to the trust, the business trust, or the private family trust, whichever one I'm gonna transfer it to, once that happens, will that assist in giving my business credit worthiness, to help that out because of the years I've had of positive credit history with the vehicle loan and the mortgage? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I'm going to work through it. So your vehicle, let's just say that you have all these years of history, that credit history is going to stay on your personal side. It's not going to go to the trust.
Okay, because I was thinking maybe if it could transfer to trust now, the bank will offer me a much larger loan initially with the business trust. It won't be like I'm starting out as a new credit with my business.
Yeah.
So that won't happen.
Yeah, no, the history is not, because the thing is that you have to refinance into the trust, right? So because it's in your personal name, you're going to have to actually get a new loan for the trust. So there's no way for that history to transfer over. So that history is going to represent itself as a closed trade line on your personal profile.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. Appreciate it, Christine.
You're so welcome. Thank you for being here.
Christine, can I add to your answer?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
Sir, what's your name? I don't want to call you bald head prophet.
That's a I'm bald head prophet now. My name is Arthur Lewis.
Art, how you doing, man? Okay.
What's up, Mondo?
All right. So one thing you may, I'm not sure if you know this, but on the business credit side, so as your business trust or your private family trust takes ownership of your assets, in business banking, business credit, loans, lines of credit, the amounts are tremendously higher than they are on the personal side. Okay. The scale of loans is at a different level. Okay. So yeah, you mentioned, maybe I can maybe get grandfathered in with my personal.
Right.
Well, Christina answered that perfectly. However, if the reason for that is because you want higher limits of credit, you want, higher access to funds or whatever, being on the business side gives you that automatically.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
It's at a different scale. Okay. So let's for instance, you have a credit card personally and it's got 20,000 on it. Well, on the business side, it can be literally a comparable product in the same organization, say Chase, you have a person for 20 grand. And on the business side, it's the same product, but it's the business version. But because you're on the business side, that same card on the business side is going to give you a higher line of credit, more like 50 to 75,000.
Ah, okay. Gotcha.
It's a different ball game on the business side.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay.
And will that, can I ask you one? I'm so sorry. I may brought another question in. Do you, in the course, will you show us the play to run as far as where do we go to create that business credit? What banks and what lenders should we be trying to go to as far as that's concerned?
Christina, was that for you?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Oh, can you ask that question again? I'm sorry.
No worries. So I thought of another question. So would you be showing us the play to run once we set up, obviously, the checking account and everything? We want to get the business credit. Will you be showing us the play to run as far as, okay, now go here and apply. These are places you can go to apply for business credit to kind of start your establishing those business credit deals?
Yes. Yeah, I have a list of net 30 accounts, which are the trade lines that you're going to use in order to establish your business credit so you could generate a paydex score within 30 days.
Sweet. Thank y'all.
You're so welcome.
You're welcome, buddy. You're welcome, Art.
All right, we have two questions in the chat from Mondo. The first one says, I heard there was a limit to how much money you can load into the insurance policy. Is that true?
Yes and no. So it depends on how it's structured. So there is a limit in the first 7 years based upon how we structure. So it's not a one number answer. Okay. So it depends on a lot of different things. What is the death benefit? How old are you? How much is your annual premium? How much are you planning on uploading the policy, front loading the policy? So there's a lot of different factors, but whatever that equates to is called the MEC, Modified Endowment Contract. Within the first 7 years, there is a number that is the max that you are allowed to put into your policy. Based on how we structure it for infinite banking purposes, our goal is to increase that MEC number as high as possible, because we want to give you the room to be able to put in funds to fuel your cash value account. Okay. Now, what happens if you hit that number? Okay. That's a big no-no. If we hit that number, modified endowment contract, first of all, the company will notify you when you're getting close. Okay. They will notify myself and my associates when you're getting close. And we will have a strategy to say, okay, hold right here, that never happens because we structure it the right way. Okay, but I've heard of these things happening. I haven't us, but we will get notified. But it changes it to a modified endowment contract, which means you lose all tax privileges, and we don't want that. Okay, so there's a yes and a no to your question. If we structure it right, no, there's not.
All right, thank you, Mondo. Tracy asks, I think she's trying to say, in order to borrow from the IUL, do you need to put a certain amount or $10,000? So do you need to put a certain amount?
No, you don't have to put a certain amount. It's based upon what you put in on annually, or even if you front load it, it will tell us what's available for you to borrow. Okay, but there's not, if you're saying, hey, I'm putting in 100 a month. Okay, well, that's going to show us how your cash value is accumulating over the next year and show you what your cash value is. If you say I'm putting in 500,000, whatever, it will dictate that number that you're able to borrow. Now, the more you put into it, that number increases. Okay, part of the infinite banking process.
All right, perfect. She also asked, is this a private trust? Is it irrevocable or revocable? So it is irrevocable. So all three of the trusts that are included in the program are irrevocable, which is the best type of trust for you guys to have. So David asks, how much can he front load the policy?
As much as you want. And we just have to, again, we look at the goal. Some people want to front load it to get a maximum death benefit, and we structure it that way. Some people want to front load it to maximize the cash value, and we would structure it that way. If you say, I want to, I just sold a house, I have $250,000 of equity, I want to put it to a policy, then we structure it with a $250,000 front load. If you say I've got 10,000, we do that. Say I've got 500, we do that. So there's no limit on what you can front load it with. We just have to structure the backside of it to make sure it matches and doesn't affect your MEC in 7 years.
All right, perfect. The next one is what suggested insurance companies? What are some suggested insurance companies?
I would say the three that I love: one, National Life Insurance Group. The second is F&G Insurance Group, and the third is North American. Those are my personal favorite three.
Okay, perfect. Let's see. So we're gonna go with Martin. Martin, you have a question?
Yes, hi. Thank you so much for all the information today. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, so I had a couple quick questions. So one of them I just put in the chat. I was curious if you have to do a search on your trust name the same way that you have to do like on a business name to make sure it's available.
Yeah, so your trust name is copywritten under common law. You can, if you want to, that is a good option. But if not, you can still operate with that name. But the best practice is just to make sure that it's not taken, because with the IRS, if you're going to get an EIN number and that name is already taken, then they're going to give you issues, and then you would have to actually add the name trust at the end of your name in order to distinguish your entity from the other entity that is not a trust.
Got it. And so does that kind of stick you in one state, meaning if it's available, say in California where I live, but it's not available in Florida because there's a business under that name, does that kind of hinder it being kind of a countrywide trust? Or I don't know how, because I know you described something about if you do a certain type of trust, then it is kind of nationwide versus stuck to the state, correct? Or am I getting that confused?
Yeah, so it doesn't hinder you from operating in all 50 states plus the territories. So once your entity is legalized, you can use it anywhere that you want to or need to. And so your entity is going to be legalized, and you're going to have an EIN number, so you can use it the way you intend on using it.
Okay, great. And then I was just curious, aside from the actual cost of the course, what is kind of like the expected cost for the actual trust? I mean, especially if you were to open up 3, is there like, how do they charge for those, the trust creation?
Yeah, so in the program, you are creating the trust. So that's why you are getting into the program to actually create the trust. We give you the templates and you customize it. And so we teach you how to customize it, or we do it together on Zoom. So when you purchase the program, you get access to the 3 trusts. You are going to create your trust yourself, and then you're going to print it out and get it notarized with your grantor. And so there's a fee for you to get it notarized. So whatever that fee is, typically it's like $10, $15, $20. Or if you go to like your local financial institution, sometimes if you're a member, they will do it for free. So there's that fee of 1, the program where you're going to create it, 2, notarizing the actual trust, and then 3, funding the trust with that initial value or consideration. So that could be anything. That could be $1, or that could be 100 or 1,000. So some of these banks, when you go to open up the bank accounts, they have a minimum of $100. So then you would have to fund the trust bank account with $100. So those are the initial fees.
Okay, great. And then from your experience, how long does it typically take to build credit for your trust? Say you start setting up all the trade lines and stuff pretty quickly. About how long before you normally can receive like your first credit card?
So I would say give yourself 60 to 90 days. So like within 30 to 45 days, you should actually generate a paydex score, because you have to, when it comes to credit, like they have these 30-day cycles. And
Mhm.
so you are actually establishing a trade line, and then you got to give it 30 days to report. And then from that reporting date, then as long as you have enough trade lines, so at least a minimum of 5 trade lines, then you will generate a paydex score. But you want more trade lines versus fewer, because you look more credible. But then at that point in time, you can start applying for credit cards. And so I would tell you, you want at least anywhere between 5 to 10 trade lines before you start applying for credit cards. But you also, if you are okay with it, you might want to, if you want to do it faster, become a personal guarantor, as long as you are, in alignment with operating your credit card the right way, then be a personal guarantor so that you can actually qualify faster.
Oh,
So
well, so you can do that with a trust.
absolutely, all
Trust.
day,
Okay.
every day,
Yeah.
there's no limitations.
Trust
Great.
ordinance. Yeah,
Great.
absolutely.
Don't limit the trust.
Yeah.
And that doesn't endanger the trust as far as the safety that it gives you by personally guaranteeing something attached to it.
Yeah, no, because your trust is its own entity. So no,
Got it.
you have no liability for the trust. The trust has no liability for you.
Got it. Okay.
All
And
right.
then my last question is for Mondo. It was regarding the policy. So I've done a little bit of YouTube research on these types of insurance policies,
Sure.
and I was watching one video where a guy was saying that the most benefit, and I'm sure you go through this a little bit on the course, which I plan to purchase. So he was saying that one of the best ways to benefit from a policy like this is to do like a 90-10, where the death benefit is the smallest amount and the majority of it is money you have access to. Would you say that's correct, or?
Yes. So there's ways to structure. It's called a max accumulation structure.
Okay.
Okay. So where a majority of your annual premiums are going to your cash value.
Okay.
So in the beginning years, the first 10 years, your death benefit will not be as large as,
Okay.
if someone had if someone didn't do that, he's had a straight flat, death benefit, theirs would be a lot higher than what yours would be in the first 10 years. But
Got it.
after 10 years, it levels off, and then it's back up to a very healthy number. So yeah, there's ways to structure it like that. Yes.
Okay. You guys are amazing. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Martin. Appreciate you. Next, we have Robert. Louisa, did you have another question, or is your hand up? I'm not sure.
I did have another question.
Okay, go for it.
But
Louisa,
I
then
I
Robert.
apologize.
Oh, no problem
Okay.
at all. Go ahead.
So two things I have with the trust, with the price you're offering now, will that still be offered within the payment plan or no?
So the price will increase, and so the payment plan will reflect the new price. But yes, I still will be offering a payment plan. So typically you can break it up into 3 payments of whatever the price is. So right now the price is $14.97. So it would be 3 payments of $533.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
You're so welcome. All right. And then we have Robert.
Yes, my question is, I do binary trading. So would it be best to get a separate trust that's in my name so I can keep trading in my name? Or can I trade? I don't know how to ask that. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I mean, I have to process what you're trying to say, but you're a trader, you do binary trading, and so you have a brokerage account, and that brokerage account is in your personal name?
Yes.
Okay, so have you ever considered opening up a brokerage account with a business? Because you
Didn't-
have to pay income on the capital gains from the trades.
Right. So I didn't know I could do it that way. That's what I'm asking.
Okay, perfect. I was just asking. So when it comes to that, there's 2 different ways that you can do it. So it depends on the brokerage, right? So a lot of brokerage, they offer business accounts. So for example, if you're doing crypto, you can use Coinbase and you can get a actual corporate account with Coinbase. And then you can have that account be owned by your LLC, and then you can actually, whatever capital gains that you receive from your crypto or from your trading, it can go to your LLC, and then that money can be transferred over into your trust, and you won't have to pay income on that capital gains.
Okay, that answers my question.
All right, Robert, thank you for asking that good question. I don't even bring
Thank
that
you.
up. All right, let's see. So Kay in the chat, she asks, does a person with more than one business operate only one business trust or multiple business trusts? So it depends on the type of business that you have. If you have a high liability business that you're operating, for example, let's just say you're operating a trucking company, that's a high liability business, right? That business, those trucks are on the road, they can get into crashes with these small cars and everything like that, right? We see it all the time. And so you would want to isolate that business by having a business trust be the holding company or owner of that specific business. And you don't want that business to be under the same trust as your real estate company, as your e-com, Amazon company, and all this other stuff. So it just depends. So you can have a business trust be the holding company of all of your LLCs, but I would only recommend that if you are doing, very not, risky industries. But if you have something like what I described, then you do want these isolated situations, because you always have to think of lawsuits, right? What will happen? So that would be my answer to your question, Kay. Let's see. Robert, I'm going to put your hand down if you don't have any other questions, okay?
Okay.
Louisa, you have a question? All right, Patricia, you have a question?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I was wondering if you were a W-2 employee, how would there be a way to get that position of tax liability over into the trust?
So because you're a W-2 employee, I think I hear echo. Because you're a W-2 employee, they actually pay you, as an individual, and they have your Social Security attached to it. So it depends on your employer. Some employers will do it, some employers will not do it. Okay, so what I mean is when you are, when you are dealing with your employer, you have to, in order to get paid a W-2, you need to fill out a W-9. The W-9 you fill out as an individual. So you did fill it out as an individual, where you put your name, your address, your Social Security, you told them how many dependents you had and all this other stuff. They processed it, and now they pay you on a W-2. What you can do is you can contact your Human Resources department, let them know you want to change your W-9. And if they will allow it, then you can change your W-9 to where it's going to pay the trust. So you would actually put the trust name. They would ask you what type of structure. So usually we check individual, but now on this situation, you would check trust, you would put the EIN number, and then you would submit it to your employer. And now, as long as they would accept it, then they would be paying your trust for your labor. So it depends on the employer, with that situation.
All right, thanks so much.
So it usually works with independent contractors because they are already 1099 versus W-2s. So I hope that helps, Patricia.
Yes, that's great. Thanks.
You're welcome. So one of the questions in the chat says, what kind of trust can the mortgage be financed into, the family or business? So it could be any trust. It could be either the family or the business that can take out a mortgage. So whichever one you prefer, but if you're to your primary residence, I would tell you to put it into your family trust. The next one is it necessary to do status correction before starting to set up a trust? No. You want to start operating privately as soon as possible, so you don't have to wait until you get your status correction in order to operate a trust. And then Patricia, and then if you purchase the do-it-yourself program and you need help or a consultation, will that be available? So yes, you can book a consultation if you need help, or you can upgrade to the done with you at any time. So if you purchase the do-it-yourself and you've gone through the program and you still need clarity and you've decided that you do want assistance, then you will be able to upgrade to the done with you for whatever the difference is. So if it's $500, like how it is currently, then you would do that. If it's $1,000 at that point, then you would upgrade for the 1,000. Will the price of the program be going up for both options, the do-it-yourself and the one with your assistance? So yes, the price of the program, well, you know what? I'm actually, So the price of the done with you will definitely be going up. The price of the program, I'm not sure yet. So I will see on Monday. It might stay the same or it might go up. But most likely it will, it'll go up. So the next question, do you have to search for your trust name? I think I answered that one. The next question, the index dividend issues per month or annually. So Mondo, for the insurance, is the index dividends issued per month or annually?
Per month.
All right, next question. With depositing into the IULs, you mentioned that based on the approval, you can borrow within 24 to 48 hours. Now, is there a certain amount of time before you can start borrowing, or is it immediate, or can it be immediately?
No, there's no particular amount of time. So once you get the policy started, the policy is issued, literally within 30 days, you can start withdrawing, pending the you front loaded it. Now, if you're starting from scratch, I mean, either you're not front loading anything, you're just starting with one premium. This would be limited funds that you can have access to because the policy is under 30 days old. But if you do front load it, then you can borrow immediately.
Next question, what was those insurance companies that you mentioned?
Yes, F&G, Fidelity and Guarantee Life Insurance Company, National Life Insurance Group, and North American Insurance Company.
Okay, then someone said in the chat, I'm one of those people who bought all the paperwork to create a trust and am lost. $800 wasted. I will be calling you. So a lot of people do that. They actually, get a trust from, online, or they go through another company and they don't teach them how to actually be a trustee. So that's the difference between my program and other people's program, is that I teach you how to actually operate the trust, right? I teach you how to actually transfer your assets into the trust and how to build wealth with the trust. So that's the most important thing, right? You want to be operating your trust as a trustee efficiently, effectively, and being that fiduciary that you are. So definitely choose the right program for you guys. And I'm going to tell you that my program is the right program. So if your business is real estate, can the business trust merge the two instead of having two separate trusts, real estate and business? And if so, how does a family trust work into that equation? I'm trying to really get clarity on this question. If your business is real estate, I don't know what kind of real estate. Are you a realtor or are you an investor? Can the business trust merge the two? So I'll answer that first part. Whatever business you have, it could be real estate, it could be, a nail salon, it could be whatever you want, right? You can continue to operate that business. You have to understand that that business is a statutory entity, meaning that you went through the Secretary of State in order to establish that business, that LLC or that S corporation. That means that they regulate your business. They have jurisdiction over your business. If you don't want that to happen, you can dissolve that business and you can create your business trust and operate your business trust as a regular business. There's no restrictions when it comes to that. So yeah, you can merge your current business with the real estate, you can replace it, and you can just operate the business trust if that's what you wanted to. Let's see, can you repost the recording? Yes, thank you. I'm not sure if somebody asked this question. Do you guys work with crypto and trust? So I kind of answered the crypto question, right? So you want to open up a corporate account with any of these crypto, companies. So the one that I know about that I'm with Coinbase. I have my LLC owns a brokerage account with Coinbase. And so any of my crypto earnings gets sold, put into the LLC and transferred into the trust. So, that's how that works. Let's see, is it beneficial to have a revocable trust which rolls over into an irrevocable trust once you die? So that is optional, okay? You choose whatever type of trust you want. So if you want, that is a strategy. If you want a revocable trust and then once you die, it becomes irrevocable, yes. Or you can just go straight for irrevocable. Next question is, what was the name of the insurance company Mondo mentioned? My apologies for reposting. So yeah, they have put it in there. Okay, yeah. Okay, Mondo. Perfect. Oh, you was already answering questions, Mondo.
Hey, multitasking, learn from me.
Oh, okay. All right. Amina has a question. Hey, Amina.
Hi, I wanted to know the names of the insurance company too, but I had a quick question. If I pay myself through my business, by the way, I purchased your trust thing too. It's amazing so far.
Oh, thank you so much, Amina. I saw that you purchased yesterday.
I know. You see, I was texting you last night, like, where's my thing? I'm ready to get started.
Right,
tonight.
and I was just like this.
Yes, we responded right away. Anyway,
Yes.
oh my goodness. I know what I was about to ask. I pay myself through my business. So I was wondering, being as though I paid myself, can I just let it go through the trust as an employee? Because I just heard you telling the lady, but I'm like, I'm my own boss. So can I just put the funds to the trust instead of?
Yeah, you can send the funds directly through the trust. If you are like paying yourself or do a 1099 yourself, you can stop that, and then you can disperse all of the funds from the business to the trust, and then from that point you can spend it through the trust, or you can take out a loan for whatever you need, and then you don't pay taxes on loans. So the trust is going to give you a loan for whatever you need, and you tax free.
Oh man, yes. Okay. Thank you so much. I'm still gonna be watching my videos tonight.
Yes, congratulations. Congrats. I'm so excited.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited.
Yay. All right. Patricia, you have a question?
Yes, I'm back again. Is there, as a to get paid from the trust, what position would you hold? Because is it the grantor but the grantor can receive funds from the trust, is that right?
No, the grantor doesn't have any beneficial interest in the trust, so that's wrong. So it depends on the type of trust we're talking about. So I only educate on irrevocable trust. So with irrevocable trust, the grantor has no beneficial interest in the trust. So they are not going to get paid. They're not going to take out loans. They're not going to do any of that stuff. They notarize the trust and walk away, never to see the trust again.
And so you would have to be a trustee or a beneficiary to receive some type of payment.
Yes. So the beneficiaries and the trustees, they can borrow from the trust. So they can receive, the beneficiaries receive distributions, and then the trustees can be compensated. So they can be 1099, or they can choose not to do 1099, and they can just take out loans and expend from the trust.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. So the next question is, what if you don't want the employer to know you have a trust? How would you transfer your income into the trust as a W-2 employee? So if you don't want to do that strategy, where you're switching your W-9, then you have to stay as a you have to keep your W-2 as an individual, and then you would just transfer your money. Like if the W-2 income goes into your personal bank account, then you transfer it, you do a Zelle or a wire, you transfer it into the trust. So that's how you would get the money into the trust, so that whatever financial responsibilities the trust has, like the IUL policies, then you could pay the policy that way. Can you please add the link to the course? Okay. And then, is your trust course applicable to Canadians? So my program is mainly for people here in the United States. I didn't include anything for the country of Canada. Is a 508 the tax exempt trust? Yes, it's a 508c1a designated trust, and it is the only mandatory exception to the 501c3, meaning that you are operating a nonprofit entity, and you do not have to apply for 501c status. Martin says, I'm on the website and on the payment screen, but I don't see the payment plan option. Where could I look? It should be there. I will have somebody from my team see about the payment plan. How much would you recommend to front load with, Mondo?
That is an individualized situation. There's no hard answer because everyone's situation is different financially. It all depends on, we do a data analysis on your financial situation. We look at your assets. We look at your what you're putting away for savings. Are you putting anything away for savings? And then we calculate what would make sense to front load the policy with. So that's a moving target because it's an individualized thing.
Thank you. And you have another question. If you currently have, wait, I lost it.
Oh yeah, it just jumped. I think
If you currently have trust and an IUL, how do you transfer the IUL into the trust?
Okay, so that's a sticky one. And Christina's gonna back me up on this. So you can definitely transfer it over. The answer is yes, you can. There's a change of ownership form from your insurance company that will allow you to change ownership over to the trust. However, Christina talked about it earlier. 3 years, Christina, break that down. There's an issue.
Yeah, so the IRS has a 3-year rule, meaning that if you are an individual and the policy was in your name and you transferred it into a trust, if you die within those 3 years, that means that your death benefit is going to be taxed.
Right.
So if you don't have the policy already, then set up the trust first and then get the policy second. If you have the policy already, then all you have to do is contact your insurance carrier and get that transfer of ownership form. So you're going to change the ownership from you, is probably you that is the current owner. So you're going to change it from you to the trust. The payer is probably you. You're going to change it from you to the trust. And the beneficiary is probably your kids or your next of kin or whoever you listed. So you're going to change it from them to the trust.
Yeah, so it's
paperwork.
There's actually 3 forms you would need actually. So there's the transfer of ownership, the change of banking information, as well as a change of beneficiary. So you would need all 3 forms actually.
Yep. The next question is there a social security that's required to get the EIN? So there's 2 ways you can apply for your EIN. One is you do need a responsible party. That responsible party does need a social security number. So if you are going to be the responsible party, meaning you're the grantor, trustee, or beneficiary, then at that point, yeah, you would put your social. If you didn't want to do that, then you can actually use a third party, which doesn't require you to use your social in order to get your EIN.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Thank you. Patricia, do you have a question? Your hand is up, or maybe I forgot to lower it on the website. Where should I look?
I think she's good. Yeah, she lowered her hand.
Will there be a discount on setting up the trust? No discounts on setting up the trust. Next question, when can you benefit from the index dividends? Meaning, when can you withdraw the dividends from the cash value if you wanted to?
So you can withdraw those once you establish that there is cash value. Obviously, the more you have in the policy, the more you front load, the more there will be. So it's quickly within 30 to 60 days. Some companies within 30, some within 60. It just depends on the carrier. However, you want to borrow, you don't want to withdraw. Okay, that's something we'll teach you. If you want to withdraw, you can, but we don't recommend that. That's not the point of infinite banking. We want to take a loan. Okay, so we'll help you understand and those distinctions.
Absolutely. Martin asks, next week is hectic for me. If I purchase now, is it possible to join future groups? Yes. So if you purchase the Done With You now and you're not able to attend next week, then you can attend in our next one. So the next one is going to be the week of August 7th through the 11th. You could attend that one or any future one. So you will have, lifetime access to be able to attend the workshop for the Done With You. Do I have any other questions? I want to be respectful of your time. It is 10:30. We've been rocking for 2.5 hours. So do I have any final questions before we close up? No? Okay, wonderful. Well, the replay is going to be available on YouTube. So I'm going to be uploading that shortly. And I did put the link in the chat if you guys are, wanting to watch the replay to, reprocess everything, because it was a wealth of information in this webinar. And, someone asked, how much is the Done With You? So the Done With You is $1,497. And we do have the next workshop that's going to be coming up this Monday. Okay. So if you are intentional about getting your trust set up ASAP so that you could be operating privately, so that your assets could be protected, so that you could be in a position to where you're saving 60% of your income and not giving it to the IRS, then you want to enroll so that you're able to join us next week in the workshop. So thank you, Edward, for asking that good question. So the replay is going to be available on YouTube, and you guys can access that. You can search us up on 7 Ways to Wealth. You can also look us up on social media, and go to wealthytrustee.com so that you're able to enroll into the program. And then you can also email us or text back that number that you received the Zoom link if you have any questions after this. So it was an absolute pleasure. Thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate you, and God bless everybody. So have a good night. Thank you so much.
Have a good night. Take care, everyone.
Have a good night.